Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, so you have a good night yesterday? I have a little headache. I don't know, maybe it was the food. But I didn't have dinner. So, okay. Comparing to what we shared yesterday, today will be a little more technical or practical. There are 4 liquids that you will try during this hour. Yesterday we encouraged to ask questions, and it did happen. But today I think it will be more like an open debate. So please ask more questions. Thanks. Democratically, please ask more questions. If you don't care, you don't have to, obviously. Okay, therefore, thank you, Marilyn, for the introduction. After this session at 4 o'clock, there will be an open panel together with Nico, Camille Vidal, and myself about hospitality, which will, I'm sure that we will talk about other things. So again, prepare your question. Prepare your question. It's a matter of exchange. Right. Yesterday, one of the points we talked through was create controversy with the things you offer, which generates curiosity. You need to, nowadays, there's such a high saturation of things in the market that I'm sure you notice that many things are repeat and done and redone again and redone again. Maybe in a new key, but it's always the same thing. So always generate curiosity and better controversy. Not necessarily all the things you do, people really like it, but at least if it's what you offer, makes people understand something or be aware of something, that's enough. To be realistic, you cannot please everybody. So no matter how much effort you can put in a drink, some people will never like it because they don't like it, and that's it. And it's a fact, as long as we recognize it. But at the same time, you must give proof that it's delicious. So if one person doesn't like it, doesn't like it. If 9 people out of 10 don't like it, maybe there's something that you need to adjust. Yeah? But always make sure that most of the people really are into it. Yes, we like technique. We like perhaps to, as I said yesterday, to mix our field with other discipline. But most of the people that come at the bar, they are not maybe interested, they don't want to know. But it's still important to create a sort of a dialogue between what people know, and some flavor, some ingredient. Whatever they don't know, eventually they're learning. But if you start to communicate with names or with information that people don't know, they lose the orientation, they get confused and say, I'll have a beer. Same story of yesterday, no? Okay. Cool. Let's move on. At a certain point, when we were making drink at the bar, obviously you always use a jigger, no? Milliliters or ounces or parts, 2 parts, same volume. It happens, and I'm sure that it happens to you. You try a drink once, maybe a new test or a new experiment, no? You try it, super good, you shake it, try with your friends, and the next day, with the other colleagues coming to the bar, you want it to make it again for them to try. You do it, exactly the same. It tastes different today. It's not the same as yesterday. Did it happen to you sometime? Why? Because of this. As a bartender, we work with most of the element. Let's say we're making a whiskey sour, okay? We get a lemon, sugar, and a spirit. For us, is a starting point element because we use this to make something else, a cocktail. This is the same. It's a starting element. We cut it, we squeeze it, make a cocktail, and the sugar as well. But who made this, for example, or who harvest and sell lemon, for them is not a starting product, it's a finished product. What does it mean? That once we handle an element or an ingredient, we need to be aware, first of all, if it's going to be a starting product or a product which has been elaborated before, like this, for example, or not. Why? Because people that make whiskey, for example, or can make syrups or liqueur, they're not there with a jigger or with a big jugs talking about parts. Generally, they work with grams because they are much more accurate. Yes, you can measure 25. You use milliliters or ounces here? Ounces, okay. So you can say 1.5 ounces. You measure it, that's 1.5 ounces. But maybe it can be 1 ounce and 3/4 with a little bit more which your eyes can see. When you reach the point that maybe you need to add 3 milliliters of a drink, or maybe of a solution of malic acid, for example, you can say, oh, maybe it's 3, I put 5. No, if you need to put 3, you need to put 3, because if you put 6, despite the fact it's maybe 1 drop more, it's basically double. So sometimes we were working and you're putting maybe a dash, no? The recipe would say a dash of Angostura bitter, for example. And colleagues say, put 2 dashes. You put that, yeah, but just a little bit more. Yeah, but it's literally 100% more what you're supposed to put. It's a lot. Imagine if tomorrow you take the bus to go, or you go to a bar, you ask for a drink, which is a 10 Canadian dollar, no, more, 15 Canadian dollar. And when they give you the bill, they say, that's $30. So, no, it's 50. No, it's 30. It's double. So no matter how small things can be, the smaller it is, the more accurate you must be. It's very simple. So at a certain point, we literally have to face ourselves to work with grams and not anymore with volumes. So to work with weight and not with the volume, which is a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning, because literally all the vision you have in your mind of this becomes useless. But I really suggest you or encourage to sometimes practice with grams and not with milliliters, because it gives you so much idea how things happen. For example, 3 weeks ago, we were having a talk in Spain with lots of bartenders from Spain, and talking about this and this milligram of the technique. And I then asked a very simple question. In Spain, one of the most consumed drinks is a gin and tonic. Different hundreds of gin and tonic water. So the question was, how many grams of sugar average is contained into a tonic water? Very basic question. Correct? Yes. Well, over there, out of these 22, no one has been able to give neither an answer which was close to the reality. How many grams of sugar generally there is in a cola, in a tonic water? 37 per what? Per liter? Yeah, generally 10 grams, 10% I would say of general. But the fact that being there talking about, oh, we distill, we do this, we do that, and then it's such a simple question, there's no answer. There's something wrong in the system, no, in my opinion, because if you don't know what's inside the product, how can you expect to be able to elaborate it in different way after? In fact, most of the time, when you play with lots of bitters and amaros, let's say a Negroni, for example. Yeah, Negroni averages much more sugar content. A Negroni of 4 ounces in total, or a little bit less, has much more sugar than a can of Coca-Cola, for example. But despite the fact it's loaded with bitter agents, you don't actually feel it. But if you remove all the bitter flavor from most of the bitters of the vermouth, it will be impossible to drink them. Okay, so always bear in mind to start to practice sometimes with grams, and you. No, what we do, we test a recipe with grams, and you know why? Because any recipe we go through, we document it, and if you have it with grams, eventually you can turn it into a finished product and a commercialized product. I'm not saying that anything you do tomorrow there will be a product in the supermarket you wish you would be a millionaire by now, but guess what? Now we are doing a liqueur. We are producing a liqueur, one of the biggest liqueur company in the entire world, and over there you can talk with about milliliters. So you either start from zero, or you train yourself prior to that. No? It's a matter of bringing, I think, bartending outside of the bar counter, you know, in other fields. Moving on, but please ask questions. I like these kind of things. As I said before, jigger, 2 ounces, 1 ounces. That's what happened. That's what happened in the reality. That's the jigger. Maybe you are very busy at the work. You try to speed up, and it can happen this and this. It's not a big deal. The drink, it won't taste that different. Yeah. But let's say you're supposed to do 2 ounces or the equivalent, and it can be 48 or 53. Little things. But the tolerance between 48 and 50 is 5 milliliters. It's almost a quarter of ounce. Yeah. Well, 5 milliliters out of 50 is 10%. It's a lot. It's crazy. Imagine if tomorrow the infractions of the Canadian dollar will drop for 10%. Fuck, it's a recession. You know? She got scared. Don't worry, nothing's gonna happen to me. Yeah? So this is nothing. No, this is everything that start to make disasters in the consistency when you want to work. Imagine if at the end of the month you have 10% less in your salary, and your boss said, "Yeah, just tiny. Look, it's nothing. No, it's 10%. You know, I can pay 2 weeks of my rent with that." I don't know. In London, no. So always bear in mind that these. Definitely you can do a great execution of things during the service, but don't rely on this much when you want to build new flavors. There's quite a high risk to not being precise. But keep using the jigger, please. Yeah? Once we put a scale behind the bar and to the shift, and I said, no, it's not going to work. Because only if you do 50 drinks a night, it can work. But in the bar, we used to do average. It was from the menu was 470 drink a night average. Maybe on a Monday it was 300, and on Saturday it was 650, whatever. And over there, every second becomes an hour. You know? Every second that you lose for a drink, for a routine, every step you do or you don't do, at the end of the night, you've been walking 10 kilometers just because you need to grab a bottle of Fernet, unless you have it closer to you. So every small things is the biggest things you can change, actually. It's the most important things. Another problem we start to face, and we have to come across to get the help of these, was the homemade things. For the same reason. Making sugar syrup, most of the place say 2 parts of sugar, 1 part of water. Fair enough. But if the sugar is granulated in a different way, the size is bigger or smaller, so in the same part, you may have more empty space, more empty volume, or more compact sugar, so in a higher concentration. So 2 parts of this, 1 part of that, sorry, it doesn't make no sense if you want to make a consistent product. Who have jeans here? I do. Some of you? Great. Once you go, you remove them. No, here. If you check both legs are along the same. Yeah? It's not that one leg is 2 inches longer than the other one. Because anything we have, or most of the things commercialized, they're not approximative. They're made because they are measured. And if you don't measure what you do accordingly, forget about to project yourself to be that far, maybe in a couple of years, in terms of ideas, in terms of the development, in terms of cost control, etc., etc. As I said, homemade sugar, even the classic sugar syrup, sometimes it was super thick, sometimes it was much more liquid. About how come? I mean, it's the same recipe, everybody's doing the same, and there's always a different result. So what we started to do is very simple, was measuring everything with grams, and then always monitoring the percentage of sugar with a refractometer. Who of you smoke cigarette? It's a kind of a healthy bar community in Canada. Okay. So I need to find another. Right. Anyway, the people that smoke cigarette, how much money you will spend a month for buying cigarette? $150 a month? At least. So it's $1,800 a year of cigarette. That's a great investment. Well, with the $20, you can buy refractometers on Amazon, eBay. And this literally allows you to monitorize and track the amount of dissolved sugars in a solution. Can be your sugar syrup, can be, for example, a liqueur, to be curious how much actually sugar into it. You can also see how much sugars are dissolved in dark spirits, because there are. Or you can check the sugars present in a sparkling wine, in champagne. So it's really interesting then to analyze and to realize how much sugar there is in the bar industry. We have no idea there's sugar everywhere, everywhere. So as I said, with the $20, you can have something really helpful, much more helpful than the cigarette you buy. Okay. Do you guys, some of you already practice with this? Great. So today, instead of checking Facebook and all the Instagram things, go on Amazon or eBay or the equivalent for Quebec or more Canada and buy a refractometer. Generally, you find two varieties. The one that goes from 0% to 32, 33%, which is right enough to check some of the vermouth or bitters. But generally, bitters are around 25-30% sugar. Or then you can buy the one from 30 until 90%. So literally with $20, your life can change. Okay, and it's fun. Then we can also pass it around. Actually, for example, no, let's do it later. Okay. So small investment. You don't need to buy a rotavac machine. $20, and you can start to monitorize things. Also to see how much sugar there is in a classic cocktail, or what is the ratio, what is the tolerance, the parameter which a daiquiri, for example, should have of a dissolved sugar. No? Because there must be a tolerance. Yes, I like it. Yes, it's perhaps a little bit too sweet, but still like it. That's a little dry, or it's far too sweet. No one will like it. So try to set some parameters in all the things that you do, because that will open you such a big window in terms of create new things and be aware. No? These pictures, which is a amatorial picture, which we did with the phone, as I said yesterday, always document it with pictures. Yes, you can take notes, but if you lose the notepad, what are you going to do? A notepad don't have a iCloud, but if you do iClouds on your phone, even if you lose it, you still got all your information. So pictures, screenshot. After 2 years of work, if you have documented those materials in a file, in a external drive, you can actually publish a book, you can write articles, and you simply have to put things together because everything is already there. They ask us, and we still write for some magazine in Europe, monthly articles or small column. And when you are very busy, yes, you can put things together, but the more time you dedicate to write things, the content will be better, correct? Since we don't have time, what we do, we still go through all our archive of information, and literally we can bang out things in a more easy way, but you can still provide and share topic that most of the bartenders, most of them, not all of them, most of the bartenders never thought to consider. That's when things happen. So these pictures, what we did, which I have here, I have my little office here. We bought a few essential oil, the one for aromatherapies or for a skin massage. No happy ending massage, just skin massage. And we start to, first of all, open them and smell them. Fair enough. And then we start to see how they will react in terms of a flavor. So the very simple exercise was to get a big bucket of sugar syrup, 1:1 or 2:1, depends, doesn't really matter. And then dissolve in the same amount of syrup, dissolve 1 drop of, for example, I'm not going to say this, but anyway, mandarin, or bergamot, or lavender or chamomile. And you try. So this syrup, still to see, doesn't taste much chamomile. Maybe I can add one more, for example. Not just that. Then you can create mono flavors. Orange or, as I said, lavender, etc., etc. What you can do, then it's really fun, but you need to organize yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to make it through. We start to create flavors that didn't exist. What does it mean? If you try an Amaro Lucano, maybe, if you try let's say Coca-Cola or a Fanta, since we grow up with these flavors, if you do a blind taste, you say, oh, that's orange juice, this is Coke, this is Sprite, correct? Each of us will spot it. But then at the question, you say, yeah, but what's inside? I don't know, it's just a Coca-Cola. So it's a flavor that doesn't exist, but since we grow up with that, we can identify. So what we wanted to do, and what we did in something, was to create flavor through syrup that didn't exist. So people could not identify. Guests could not say, oh, but what is this? I like it, but what's in it? Just the fact that someone cannot recognize what's happening in his mouth, but still enjoy it, that's when you create something positive. That's when you create a new flavor, a new experience. How to do that? Very simple. Lots of patience. Lots of paper, screenshot. And then we did the classic exponential combination. That means one part, a glass of syrup, a drop of flavor 1, a drop of flavor 2, and you try. Then you can do drop of flavor 1, 2 drop of flavor 2, and 1 drop of flavor 3. Doing the exponential, like 2 elevate by 2, or 2 elevate by 3. And now, it doesn't really matter how many flavors there are in these pitches, but we used to have a base of 20 flavors, mono flavors. Now, if you elevate 20 by 20 by 20, it's, how much is it? 4,000 or 8,000, something like that. So a few thousand combinations. Out of those, not all the samples that you do, they're like, wow. No, maybe 50 of those 1,000 will be super genius. It's enough. 50 new flavors that people can identify it's a book. It's already a Bible of flavor. You can do 3 years of new menu content. Well, you don't do this in one night. We were trying 3 flavors or 3 expressions every night. Why? Because your palate gets overloaded, overpowered. And since only these things, you can monitor them and evaluate by taste, you can have more than 3 different ones at night. And if you have a coffee before and the acidity in your mouth change, it will be a different result. If you've been drinking all night behind the bar, you will never be able to establish what is really worth to experiment or not. And this test that we did across 2 years opened so many new paths, so many new doors, because after then, now we are still able to create flavor that don't exist. And when eventually one day you want to do your own product, and you are aware that outside in the market there are, as I say, saturation of very similar products, say, I've got an idea that doesn't exist yet. That's when things happen. So I would suggest every night, play with 2-3 flavors. Maybe 3 flavors and you do 3 times 2, 3, like 9 combination and see. Maybe it will be, we say, I don't like it, it's nothing special. Cool, start with something else. Essential oil. The essential oil, some of those, they say that you cannot drink them. Well, they are very concentrated. I've got here a bottle of ethanol, 95%. If you drink, you're going to poison yourself. But if you dilute it with 60% of water, you have let's call it a kind of a vodka. So it's a matter of how concentrate are the elements to be potable or not. If you imagine you dissolve 1 drop of, as I said, mandarin oil or bergamot oil or lavender oil in a half liter of sugar syrup, and with that you're going to make approximately, how many? 40 cocktails. There's a 1 drop of oil split in 40 glasses. The concentration is so law that is not harmful at all. But these are not harmful anyway, because if they're used for aromatherapy, you actually inhale them, and by inhaling them, they still are inside of your body. Any questions?
What would be the difference then between a comestible and not? Because you do see, like, they're marked, some of them are comestible, some of them are not. Would there be any difference between them in that case?
Well, generally, there are two. Yes, there are questions for this one. Generally, there are, okay, first of all, is a commercial purpose. Second of all, some of those has been tested or not. To test a product, you may require a lot of money to invest into it. And if something is dedicated to put in soap, people don't eat soap, so you don't have to do edible aroma for that purpose. Okay, so it really depends which are the purposes of it. And if you want to flavor, I don't know, if you want to aromatize your car after you wash it, definitely don't do cocktail with those aromas, but with those products. But if you start to use things which are used perhaps for skin treatments or cosmetics, exactly. In fact, let's distribute the first syrup, please. The syrup number 1, please. Thank you. Another font of inspiration, and then have I answered your question? Yes. And then another font of inspiration for flavors for us, which has opened up a lot of. When we were traveling or going to the airport, when you got those 2 hours to kill before the boarding, we go to the duty free and we try perfumes. Like it or not, what is important is to understand which are the main ingredients of the perfume. And most of the ingredients used in the perfume or in the cosmetic business, they have a lot of things in common with the bar. For example, a very important fragrant, I'll have one as well, thanks. A very important fragrant in the gin is the orris root. But the orris root is used widely in the perfumes, And we can talk about that for a few hours. So a big font of inspiration was to be interested about what was inside a cosmetic product in terms of flavor, in terms of ingredient. And that opened up a lot at the chances. Once everybody have this, let me know. In the meanwhile, what's your question, my dear?
My question was, so you were saying you were using essential oils and bitters of the sort. What about shrubs to add a little bit more of a different level of flavor as well as the acidity and bitterness? Would you use shrubs for the same style of purpose and mix them with bitters to create new flavors as well, but add a little bit of a depth level as well?
So basically you do a shrub,
Yeah.
You mean a vinegar shrub,
Yeah.
And then you want to add something else into it.
So like the same idea as you were talking about with the flavors of
Yes.
flavoring and combining different bitters from essential oils.
Yes.
To create a new flavor. Would you combine those essential oils, those bitters as well with a shrub of
Yes, you can emulsify them everywhere. Yes, absolutely. Some of those are also, you can also emulsify them in the water, but since they're very concentrated and are very volatile and aromatic, when you combine them in a neutral liquid like water, for example, you might perceive, yes, the aromatic, the fragrance, but also a very kind of a bitter notes, which can be unpleasant. So now these things might look a little bit extreme, but in the liqueur business, in the liqueurs of even vermouth or bitters, or the limoncello, etc., all those flavors, or most of those flavors, are brought through essential oil of these botanicals. So simply, we are not doing nothing different. We are simply applying the same technique behind the bar prior to making a drink or when you make a syrup. Now, did everybody receive the first sample? What does it remind you of the smell? Church, yeah? Pine, pepper, church? Marilyn Manson? No. Okay. Well, let's church, right? Church or ritual in general, no? What is this aroma? Why a church will smell so? Incense, exactly. So this is a sugar syrup 1:1, where we emulsified some frankincense oil. Frankincense is a resinoid, is a resin where the incense is made. So, and simply you can make a syrup, which reminds you of rosemary, sage, pepper. But then I said, no, this smells of church. Exactly. So this is the first sample. Well, everybody receive it? So let's start to distribute the second one. But anyway, the frankincense on the nose, don't you feel like a kind of a mandarin as well, a mandarin peel? Like a zesty? Well, there's not. There's not. But the fact that you feel something in common, if you do combine mandarin or a orange with frankincense, is a beautiful combination. So always try to spot what's inside. Maybe it's not inside, but the fact that you feel it or your nose perceive it, that is really a potential new combination of flavors. Yeah? That's really important. Some coffees have got aromatic notes of chocolate. Well, if you combine chocolate with coffee, it matches very well. There's no chocolate in the coffee, but if you do smell so, try to combine it in the real life. And that's when things happen. So it's a very good. Now, second element, right. Now, how do you, in the meanwhile we talk through, this is oil. These are essential oil. If you will put them in a water, the reason why they're called oil, because of this different a specific weight and density, and they float, they separate. You cannot mix them. It's the same way when you put olive oil on the water. Separate. Or same way when, unfortunately, there are accidents on the sea and petrol and oil, it gets lost on the water, it's separate. So how can you combine consistently essential oil in a water solution or in a sugar syrup where there is water and sugar? And when we say sugar, generally we refer of sucrose, yeah? Because we say sugar. There's sugar, yes. Now we should also be aware, when we talk about sugar, there are different varieties of sugar. Okay? So how do we combine, or how can we combine an oil in a water solution? Question. We emulsify it, but you can emulsify it mechanically. Let's say to make like a mayonnaise, yeah? Or in a blender, get emulsified. Or you can do it in an emulsion in a chemical way. When we say chemical, when you say chemical, we say, oh, that's chemical. No? I never use chemical when I speak with the guests because they misinterpret it. Chemical, everything is chemical. Everything is chemistry. Distillation is chemistry. And infusion is a chemistry. Essential oil distilled from orange, is a chemical process. So it depends which language, which words used. Be really careful into it. So we can do exactly a manual or a mechanic emulsion, which anyway won't guarantee that this thing will stay forever together. It will separate eventually in the future. Or you can do an emulsion with other components. So what is the best way to dissolve an oil? Alcohol, yes, which is a solvent, with a solvent. Alcohol, we will say perhaps ethanol, so it's also drinkable. Or what else? With another fat, exactly, which are also solvent. So, first example is the glycerin or glycerin, which, however, some of the oil, they don't get dissolved into it. However, you can buy bottles of glycerin for $5, $6 on internet. Glycerin is well used in pastry, in cosmetic, so it's absolutely possible to use it for the drinks. This is the first option. Otherwise, we can use ethanol. Generally, you get around 95% ethanol. That's when it can really dissolve most of the oils. Okay? And another thing is also the temperature of dissolving. If you warm up the oil or with a warmer solution, warm, not hot, of ethanol, it will be dissolved and it will break down even more in a water and sugar solution. And that's what I did. Did you receive the second one? Each of you? Okay. What's the aroma of the second one? You say bergamot? Spa. Spa when you go on the spa. Yeah? Eucalyptus? Lemongrass? Bergamot? Yeah? Over there? White pepper? Something that comes in the forest. Hmm? Someone say pine? Pine? It's not proper pine, but it's the same family. There's a very famous hip hop band from Los Angeles. Cypress. Cypress Hill. Yeah? Yeah, this is cypress. So again, water and sugar with a couple of with drops of cypress essential oil dissolved with ethanol. A little bit of ethanol for like 2.5 liters of sugar. It's like this. I made it a little bit stronger so you could feel it. There are 6 drops of cypress for 2 liters of sugar. That means that with one of these little bottles, you can make a swimming pool of syrup. Eh? I use less 1.5 ounces to dissolve the oil, and then you combine. Okay. You can find good essential oil for. There are synthetic essential oil which the flavor don't come from the actual natural material, and there are one which are extract from the material itself. I suggest to buy the one which are extract from the natural material because you can spot most of them if they are synthetic or not. How much is it? The price might vary from $6 to $10 to $100 or even to $1,000 for one of these. However, most of the flavors we use were very approachable, $10, $15. And as I said, with $15, you can do syrup for 1 year. Hopefully less, if the drink is successful. Question?
Yeah, just to be sure of the process, you said that you dilute kind of a few drops of that oil into 1.5 ounces of ethanol and mix it with the syrup. But there will still be trace of ethanol. And I don't know if you know that, but that's kind of a major problem for Quebec province because we cannot pre-mix any kind of alcohol into our syrup or anything like that. So even if our syrup just fermented by the course of time and we get caught by the liquor police, it's just illegal. So is there an option, like a most effective way to do that exact?
It's exactly the same things in Italy. In Italy, you cannot need their homemade. You can do nothing. I hope, I guess, you can maybe tell me if I'm wrong. When the day you will receive an inspection in the bar, I think the last thing they will do will be go with a hydrometer or to see if your sugar syrups are fermented. And if your sugar syrups are fermented, that means they've been sitting there for ages. Generally, also when you use essential oil for syrups, they tend to lose the fragrance after time. So use it for 3 days, 5 days, a week. You can seal it in a vacuum machine, in a vacuum bags, and keep it in the fridge. You can stock it up a little bit, but generally, whatever you produce, generally you consume it within a couple of weeks. Adding 1 ounce or 1.5 ounces of ethanol for 2 liters of bucket definitely doesn't alter the flavor. Yes, there is a little bit of alcohol if you want to be peculiar, or there are some people obviously that don't drink alcohol, but at the same time you can use then glycol propylene instead, or glycerin if you don't really want. But to be honest with you, yes, legally it's not legal, of course, yeah, yeah, but there are more chances that we do something illegal, like to give an extra shot to the person that maybe had enough drink. Maybe can have still one more shot, but it's better not. Once you do it and you are aware of it, that's also illegal. That's also against the. So your question makes sense. You are right, but I'm not wrong. Yeah, makes sense? Makes sense? Yeah. Anyway, let's start also with the third. Let's see if you can nail this. I'm not going to give you any. Let's start with the third sample, please, of syrup. Yeah, that's the ethanol. Okay. pH values. Now, I've got here some lemon juice from pasteurized from the bottle. And I have here a fresh lemon. I have a pH meter. This is very expensive. $15, $20 in Amazon. Yeah? There are people, they ruin their life because they bought this. So smoke less, don't do drugs as well, and buy pH meters. Please, thank you. So, thank you so much. A device has a pH meter, which is, as I said, is very cheap, can give you a lot of information. For example, what's the final pH of a sidecar cocktail after you've shaken it and you serve it? No? Or I said a daiquiri before. You balance it up, maybe this is a little bit too sour. What's the parameter of pH that you should stay in to be sure that even if you don't taste it, you know that that daiquiri will be enough balanced? This is a nice question to ask, no? Yeah. With $20, you can have the answer. So, for example, this fresh lemon has a pH of 2.9, okay? Now, let's try the pH from the pasteurized lemon, which generally tends to be more acidic. So this was a 2.9, the fresh one. And this is the same. So I said I bullshit. Great. Okay. So always be curious about the acidity of the product, or even of the liquid that you serve at the guest. To do another example, one of the most successful drinks we done a couple of years ago was a Manhattan, classic Manhattan, rye whiskey, vermouth. I really like the example before of the 212 of the dial code. That was really nice too. 2 parts, 1 part, 2 dash. So it was classic Manhattan, where we add into it a little bit of a Canadian verjus and a little bit of red wine. And the fact that you add acidity from the verjus and a tannin flavor, some verjus have a little bit of tannin. Acidity from the verjus and tannin from the wine and the verjus was still Manhattan, but with a kind of a salivation effect, subtle salivation at the back of your palate. And in that moment, you could taste all the notes of the oak, of the whiskey, all the botanicals. It was an explosion of flavor, adding acidity where generally there's no that big source of acidity, because in a Manhattan you don't squeeze half of the lemon into Manhattan. No? However, add small points of acidity into drink that you think don't have, because Manhattan does have its own acidity. The acidity from the vermouth, for example. It can change, it can be really fun to do it. Anyway, third sample, yes? On the nose. This, I think, is the less easy to... Say again? Soap? Men's perfume, exactly. This is a botanical widely used in men's perfumes. Yes, yes. Come on. Don't look at me. Taste the glass. Musk? No. Sandalwood. This is sandalwood. And this, I put, look, in this one, I get, or me, no, I don't get it. No, because before, when I tried it downstairs, before I emulsified it, I tried, and it was kind of a bitter, but it was maybe the essential oil, but it all dissolved by now. Yeah. Anyway, a bottle of diesel sandalwood might cost you $20, which is also very rare to get, because it starts to be forbidden in some countries because of the crop. But you can find still some stock available on the internet. So if you see good sandalwood, buy some oil, because in a few years maybe it might be even more rare to get. Okay, So pH, so to go back, $20 is $40. Do you make a lot of tips in working in the bar in Canada? Do you make $40 a night of tips? No? Me neither. But once you get $40 in tips, buy a refractometer and then a pH meter. And you will see how many things are. And there was a question. Someone else was asking a question? No? Okay. Let's carry on then. Let's carry on. We were facing a lot of wastage of fruit every night, especially in London. Fruits comes which is not ripe, and most of the real life of the fruits occurs into the cellar, on the ship, on the cargo. And fruit was tasteless, super sour. The next day, for half day, was a kind of a ripe, and then straight away would start to break down and start to be not presentable anymore for garnishes. Yes, you could do syrups, you could do puree. But every night, generally, we were facing at least a couple of dollars worth of berries, which were not presentable anymore for the next day. If I would have to do every day syrup or puree for the leftover, I will accumulate so much stock of that mathematically it would be impossible to use it the next day. It will start to accumulate mathematically. So what we did, we started to make skins fruits, which is a technique of preservation very, very old. We were blending in a blender the berries, the fruits. What is this? No, let's wait. Is the fourth? No, let's wait. Is the one is the cold one, yeah? Yeah. Okay. Let's wait a little bit, please. Sorry. But thanks for making it ready. Otherwise, then he loses the temperature if he stays. That's why. But it's fine. So we put them in we blend all the fruits. Eventually, you strain from the seeds or from the solid part. You make a puree. You can adjust the acidity. You perhaps might add a little bit of sweetener if you're not, if you don't think it's sweet enough. You can add essential oil or fragrance. This was a puree of strawberries, which I tried really nice strawberries today. These are the local one. No? This is a seasonal now for strawberry. With a little bit of a Mozart liqueur inside, we tried. And you do these skins. Once it's dehydrated, you peel it out, and you can. It's a little bit sticky, so you can use it as a garnish. You can cut it into shape. You can make a cone. And once you eat it, it will melt in your palate, and it will release all the flavors of the fruit, its own acidity, and eventually the aroma if you add, as I said, cacao. This is very fun to do. It doesn't cost anything because it will be already some fruit that you will go to the bin, to the trash. And you can give it a new kind of a life, or at least a new usage. It was very important for us also to see the real function of things. And we need to wait for the drinks. They will be the last serve. And as I asked yesterday, what is the real function? What's the purpose of the tools we have? A shaker is for shake. But I can also stir a drink into a shaker. Yeah? Not necessarily I need to get a mixing glass. I can also drink from a shaker, so suddenly it can become a vessel. These are very abstract reflections, but you need to go through them. A blender. A blender in the bartending school is used for making what? Blend the drink. Frozen daiquiri, etc., etc. Correct? Right. Can you do anything else with it in the blender? Do you need to spend $500 for a blender just for do frozen daiquiris? Because when it's in December, you have 1 meter snow. I doubt that people will ask you for frozen daiquiri, correct? But you still have a nice blender. So we start to see what does a blender do. Blender blends, create rotation, can do emulsion, can emulsify, but then eventually can actually shake a drink. Then we realize that in a blender, you can control the dilution of a cocktail with a much higher control than in a shaker. Why? Because everybody's shaking a different way. Different strength, maybe a few seconds more, a few seconds less. And that's changed the dilution. Very simple. And the final result. Blender, you just have to press on and off. Everybody should press the same button to make it on and off. So it's already, and then eventually the intensity of the speed. So blender is much more accurate in terms of movement, in terms of grid. So let's make a very classic example now. We make a whiskey sour. Do you like whiskey sour? Yeah. If you don't like it, we still do it because I only have whiskey, okay? So, and what we do, we exactly do the same. We do the same. So we do 2 ounces of whiskey. The reason why I do it in a transparent glass is because then one we're going to shake it and one we're going to blend it. And I'm going to show what's going to happen. And we use, obviously, fresh egg white, yeah? So we have the whiskey, the lemon, and the sugar syrup. And so far, you say, but what's the point to sit in here and see Simone making a whiskey sour? Exactly, there's no point. But wait a second. Wait a second. Okay, let's try as well. Do you know the pH of a whiskey sour? No? I'll tell you now, $20. Okay. And you know also, if someone asks you how much sugar is dissolved in a whiskey sour, I'm going to tell you now. How much sugar you think there is in there? I put 3/4 of ounce of sugar syrup, 1-to-1 of sucrose. Yeah? How much sugar there is in a whiskey sour? 20%. 20%? Yeah, this is 22, 23. Yeah? So there's more sugar in a whiskey sour than in a Coca-Cola, same amount. No? Okay, pH. We said the pH. pH, say 3.2. Fuck that, it's fine. Anyway, now we need to shake it. We shake it by hands, and we put a fresh egg white. Yeah. How much egg white shall we put? Generally, 1 egg. 1 egg. Okay, cool. You said that. 1 egg. Everybody agree with the entire egg white of an egg? Maybe a little bit less. Half. Yeah. Let's come to a conclusion. How much shall we put? Okay, 3/4. Exactly. Great. Perfect. So. Now, 3/4 of an egg white is still very approximative because if egg is slightly bigger than the previous one. Anyway, let's be approximative like most of the situation. Okay. Okay. Done. This is done, and use this extra. And now we shake it. Well, we put the ice first. So that's the whiskey sour. We put the egg white, put it here, and we put a little bit more ice, and we shake it. And so far, so good, correct? Tell me when to stop, okay? Stop? Carry on? Stop, okay. Say stop, okay. Great. This let's use this again, since this. So this is a whiskey sour with a 3/4 of maybe a little more of egg white. Okay. You said dry shake as well. Perfect. Let's keep the dry shake in mind. So this is what happened. Unless you do the dry shake, unless you empty it out, close it again, shake it again, it always leak when you shake, yeah? So 2017, to shake a cocktail, you need to do double passage. That is an option. Blender. Blender, we put inside the liquid egg white. Here we put almost the entire egg, 3/4. Here, I'm going to try to put 1/2 ounce of egg white, okay? Which is far away different than this. If you put 1/2 ounce of egg white in a shaker and you shake it, even if you do dry shake, you won't have a bigger result. Okay. I put ½ ounce of egg white. But before that, I need to put ice. In this drink, we measure everything. You do measure everything when you make a whiskey sour. Yeah, you put egg white, assuming that all the eggs are the same, unless you pre-break it and you put in a squeeze, and then you put ice. Do you measure how many ice cubes you put in a shaker when you shake a sour cocktail? Most of you, no. How come you measure everything? You don't measure the ice. When ice is so important for the drink that you will never be able to make a cocktail without ice. So we measure everything, and then we forget to measure the ice. It's like when you go to cook, you do the recipe, and then you just turn on the oven, something, and then you go to watch a movie. You think it's gonna be ready the dinner. So the ice is like the fire in the kitchen. You must be aware where you want to go, which dilution you want. So let's assume that I also bought a small scale for $20. So let's assume that ask you what is a 19 grams. Let's put 3 ice cubes. So let's put 60 grams of ice that eventually will be water. Okay? Inside. And then we put the egg white as well. ½ ounce of egg white. Now we close it. Let's see if I'm able to close this. A little bit. Okay. And now we press on. Yeah. Yes. All those ice cubes that I put inside, I'm going to make them melt to get the same or approximative dilution that I would have get by shaking it by hand. Okay. So this is the first whiskey sour. This is the second whiskey sour. This is an emulsion of egg white. This is not an emulsion because almost entire egg that you put here is not emulsified. It's still here, present in the drink. And the worst thing is when you drink sours, then after a few sips, you get kind of a slimy things at the bottom of your tongue. That's when there's something wrong. Even though we look cool shaking the drink, but we have absolute no clue what's happening inside of the shaker to emulsify egg white. Here there is literally 1/5 of the egg white in here. But here I'm emulsifying 100% of that 1/5. Here I'm emulsifying maybe 10% of that entire eggs. Once you drink a whiskey sour like this, it will varnish in your palate. It will be the most delicate, light whiskey sour. With all its own flavor, but not a kind of eggy, not shaken. Now it's separating, and we get almost ½ inch, which is approximately the same result you will get doing a dry shake, correct? But you're still using the entire egg for a dry shake for ½ inch. Here I'm using ½ ounce, and I still get the same head of foam. So still, that means that even with a dry shake, there will be a lot of egg white which hasn't been emulsified. And sooner or later, after a few sips, it will stick at the bottom of your tongue. Dilution, that means that every bartender will be able to shake or to serve the same sour with the same air, with the same foam for garnishing, for a New York style with a float of wine, for example. So these are two whiskey sour with the same recipe, same balance. Yes.
What about temperature?
What about temperature? Try. You see, I could have bought a thermometer without a $20. Yeah, question.
What about the wet dog smell of the eggs?
Where?
When you emulsify it with the blender, do you still get that wet dog smell? Is it pronounced or it's just?
Because that's the eggs smell of wet dog in Canada. I will never come here to work. No.
When you shake a sour with white egg, there's always a little bit of that
Okay.
wet dogs that comes
If you do get that, definitely you will get 5 times less if you use a little bit of egg white emulsified in this. And I said, wow, well, this idea, we saw it by going for a meal in a Peruvian restaurant in Peru, in Lima, where they use blender to make pisco sour. Yeah? So if you imagine that, if you state in your mind that blender is just for a blended drink, for frozen drink, I think that you will find lots of situations in your life where you can get it through then, you know? Not just about making drink. And since that moment, I never look back, and we always do sour drink with the egg white, with the blender. Question?
Have you checked the pH difference between those two? Did you put less egg white?
No, but it's fine. We can check. Do me a favor. Can you check just dip it in there. So this is the, okay. This is 3.1. 3.1 is the one in the blender. Let me wash it, otherwise it's not gonna read it properly. But it's not also a matter of egg white, it's also a matter of dilution as well. And let's dip this in. Oh, it's off. Oh no. 3.7. It tends to have a higher pH. But having a higher pH doesn't mean that it's more sour. Eh? It doesn't mean that it's more sour. There's a different pH. But what you perceive in your palate can be different to person. So if you give a slice of lime which is a 2.8, some might say, oh, this is less sour, this is not too sour. So it's a matter of palate. Please, question.
What's your take on the order of a dry shake or a wet shake to get a better foam by hand?
Honestly, we did try a dry shake like anyone. For me, it doesn't make no sense. Why? To open and close a shaker twice in 2017, when you have an electric whisker, electric blender, for me, it doesn't make much sense, seriously.
And adding a spring, for example, of a alcohol inside the shaker, do you think it has a difference because it's more movement, or do you think
It might do, but then you have an extra part to wash. To be honest with you, once we try with the blender, you do it once, you never look back. And then once you can obviously estimate, how was the amount of, how many grams is your ice from your machine, then you can set up which dilution you always want in your drinks, which is important because consistency, there's no point to go in a bar on a Monday night having a great drink in 3 minutes, and then you bring your friends on the weekend to impress them about that new place you discover, and you wait 20 minutes for the same drink, which is half of the good you had. It kills off the expectation. So consistency is the most important thing when you run a kind of business, I think. Other questions?
Yeah, have you tried with manual emulsifier? When you use
Hand blender.
Hand blender. Yes, we did use hand blender in the past, yes. But then you need to stay there, you need to hold it, you know? With the blender, you turn it on, you can serve someone else. You can serve it. Say again?
It sounds better.
Well, sounds is a matter of opinion, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it sounds better.
Maybe it sounds like it's a singer. I just think that the blender is kind of noisy behind the bar.
Yeah, this blender is very noisy. You got music at the bar, and this is not a rule, guys. You can do the sour the way you want. Trust me. You know, I'm showing you the difference between this technique and this technique. Hand blender, yes, you can, but then you need to stand there. You know, it's up to you. Yeah, do it. It's fine. That's the beauty. There are no rules. There is no rules. You choose what to do, as long as you are capable to see the different results. Someone ask a question, or we move on? Okay, we move on? Okay, so basically with this, we have different results, not better, different result. We can now consider the dilution as an important factor, because we can measure the ice that will chill our drink. We also dilute our drink at the point we want. The dilution might change the texture because we can decrease the amount of egg white, fresh egg white. Consistency, very important. And speed of production, because you turn it on, you let it go for those 30 seconds, and then you can open a beer to a guest, you can take a payment, you can wipe the bar, you know, you can do many things. Okay, move on. But then at this point, where can we do frozen drink if we can use a blender for non-frozen drink? We start to experiment cocktail in the slush machine. And generally, when we make any cocktail we do the recipe, we measure it, and then we add water. We add ice, we add water. But in this case, you don't add ice, you don't add water. You do the recipe, and you turn the water contained in the original recipe into ice. It's kind of a completely opposite result. And this is really cool to experiment for classic drink because, yes, you have a different results. You can control the dilution, texture, and then you cryo-concentrate the flavor. What does it mean? By removing the water contained in the drink, you don't remove it, you simply turn it into a solid, into ice, the rest of flavor concentrate more. That's when you can do we were doing a pina colada in the slushing machine without using cream, without using dairy, but still gain the same creamy texture. Why? Because the formation of the crystallization of the ice on the water and the shape of each single crystal is affected by the speed of freezing, if it takes longer or short time to freeze, and at which temperature it starts to be elaborated, the liquid. So we managed to make this pina colada with no dairy, with no cream, with just coconut water, which was silky and creamy, but was completely dairy-free and super light, super fragrant. We were paying the rent of the bar with that, simply pulling it from the slushing machine. So the cryo-concentration is a very important topic to take into consideration when you do frozen drink. And how do we get this? How we come across this? There are some vermouth makers, where especially the big one, where let's say you buy wine, and then you need to buy also the alcohol to make the infusion, the extract. But what they do, they get the wine and they freeze the wine. And the first element freezing is the water. So suddenly you can have a wine which is a 12 ABV, 12% alcohol, and after the freezing it becomes 15% alcohol. So automatically you can create your internal needs of ethanol without buying ethanol. So you can save millions of dollars in a large production of vermouth. And after I said, wow, we haven't done it to save money. We have done it to see how did it work out the flavors. That's it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
Don't you need more sugar in order to keep the ice from freezing completely or melting completely in your cocktail?
Yeah.
To keep the texture, the slushy texture?
Yeah, the stability of it depends on the temperature you want to work it out, the amount of sugar, exactly, and generally you are around 20% sugar, like the whiskey sour we did. But then what makes a difference is the alcohol, the amount of alcohol, or the concentration of alcohol. What you can also do, you can do different sugars. You can use glucose or fructose or the classic sucrose, which is the blend of the two. And those two also change the size, affect the size of the final crystallization. What happens then, when a drink is very cold, it tends to taste less sweet. So you say, oh, I need to add a little bit more sugar. But by adding sugar, then you affect the texture. So it's a matter of find which... in fact, we base the recipe on the same equation to make ice cream. When you make ice cream, or gelato, there's a part of solid and a part of liquid that you need to include in this equation. You must use some solid fats, you must use some different amounts of sugar and liquids. And if this equation is not balanced, you will lose the structure, the texture. And it's the same for cocktails. There's a lot of solid in a cocktail, in a liquid. In a bottle of Amaro, there is at least around 30% of solid sugar. But there's no solid when you drink it, you don't feel it, but there is. It simply has been dissolved. Any questions? Let's move on. Fonts of acidity, we said before, fresh citrus or acids containing fruits, verjus is one of my favorites. contain acid, but also the results of the fermentation. You can play with it to get acidic notes. Let's start then to distribute the drink, which by now should be room temperature. No, anyway, in the meanwhile, we receive this. The reason why I want you to make you try the next element is this is another reflection that we did. How many ingredients there are inside of one ingredient? Sounds like a stupid question, no? But before the previous speech regarding the distillation, you remember how many elements you can obtain through the different level of distillation, how many compounds, how many different aromatic chains from the alcohols, no? And that's the same. How many ingredients there are in one ingredient? This is one ingredient, correct? Final product is one ingredient. How many ingredients there are there? There are more than 100 botanicals. There's alcohol, there's sugar, there's water, for example. How many ingredients there are in an orange? Or how many ingredients with a different function there are in one ingredient? What you're having now, you are trying one ingredient which hasn't been elaborated. Simply, I added water. Let's wait that everybody get it. And I would like to have one as well, please. Time-wise, how are we doing here? We still have that's it. 50 more minutes maximum, do we? 15, yeah? It's a quarter past. Thank you. Did everybody got this? Okay. Before you guess what is it, smell it. Try to identify some aroma. And then try it as well. What do you get in the flavor? Watery, light, sweet, a little bit of acidity, reminds me like a white wine on the tongue, don't you? Yeah. So grape maybe. Beer, yeast, flavor of yeast, bread, no? Bread. Okay, so we are trying to identify something, no? There's something mineral, something dry. Do you feel like a little drop of lemon or of acid? Just tiny bit, no? Don't you feel a little bit of acidity? Yeah? Oh, yes or no? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the reflection was how many ingredients there are in one ingredient. Well, over there are two ingredients. One of those is water, which I had. And the second one I tell you. So can you get more than one kind of a mouthfeel? Yes, you can. How many flavors you can get out from one ingredient? That's the example. Can you make a cocktail by using just one ingredient? This is a nice question, huh? And I think it's possible. It's very complicated, but I think it's possible. Let's say one ingredient plus water. So an orange, in theory you can. You can, what can you get out of an orange? Skin, essential oil, what else? The juice, the pulp, yeah, the solid part, the seeds. And can you elaborate those elements? What can you do? This, if you do this question with any element, you need to write it down because what you can do, yes, tell me. Juice, you can reduce it, you can make a concentrate syrup, perhaps, no? Where you can obtain sugar, more sugar. What else? You can maybe dehydrate the skin and turn it into a powder. What else? Sherbet? Gel, bitters, yeah? Cool. Anything else? Oleosaccharum? Can you make it ferment and have alcohol out of it? Yes, you can. So what you have in there is not orange, even though I tried something similar in Colombia out of orange, is honey with water, yeah, which has been kept open for 5 days in a continuous aeration. And then when you start out once you start the natural aerobic fermentation, with the open air fermentation, we simply close it with the airlock for 3 weeks. And I could have kept it longer, perhaps for 1 week more, and it would have been a little bit more drier, and that's when it was even more difficult to spot the honey. Question. What kind of, is the honey that I bought in, what's the name in English? Chestnut? Chestnut honey. Chestnut honey. So you need honey, you need water, you need any source of sweet, any source of sugar. Water, and that's it. Why honey is a sugar source? Why we had water? Because most of the honey don't have more than 12, 15, or maximum 18%, 20% to the maximum of moist, of humidity. That's why honey can be kept for even thousands of years without going off, because it doesn't have enough water to make it ferment. There are some, we tried some honey from the Amazon, which are much more higher on moist and are much more liquid, and they ferment like crazy. It's super bizarre. Eventually, you can add yeast manually, or you can get the natural bacteria from the air. That's why we kept it 5 days open to start that process. You can add yeast nutrient eventually, but that is, if you do that, you should add an external yeast to make it work. And then you can either do aerobic fermentation, and then you can carry on with this. That's where you develop most of the acidity notes. Or you can turn it into the anaerobic fermentation with the airlock. So, can you create 4 or 5 different scents, flavor with one ingredient? Yes, you can, through the fermentation. Depends which way you want to lead this fermentation. This you can buy in Amazon for $3. Sorry?
$20?
No, for $3. So you can buy 5 for $20 or more if they do discount. Water, jars of honey, and you have in front of you a huge football field to play with your ideas. And then eventually you bottle it, or you can stop the. Yeah, I put a little bit of sulfites to stop it, but even on the luggage when I brought it was bursting, so it's still going on a little bit. You can use obviously different things of flour, but going back to this, yes, with one ingredient you can extract different other ingredients, different other flavor compound. Honey is sweet, that's it. Can be slightly more bitter, more herbal, but out of it you can transform it, you can get minerality, dry notes. If I would have kept it locked with a valve for, I said, 1 more week, this would have been, you could have confused it with like a natural biodynamic white wine. And if you would have kept it open for an aerobic fermentation, that's when develop much more, let's say, vinegar or acetic bacteria, which gives you kind of acidity. That's when you say, oh, this is, for me, is a biodynamic wine. Well, there's no grape, it's honey and water. So to the question, going backwards, how many ingredients there are inside of an ingredient? Try to answer this question for every element you have next to you that you would like to elaborate, and you will, literally, you have a wide canvas of ideas to play. Question, yes? Yes, this technique, this process is exactly the same process used for beer making or for wine making. And depends which sugar you ferment. For example, when they produce tequila or mezcal, when they cook the agaves and they have their sugars, they start to make them ferment. And depends which sugar you have. For example, in the agave, there are some fructant from the fructose, which our body the human body don't accept, and that's why they're also used to as a purge for kids. Basically, you drink a little bit of that ferment, you have a massive diarrhea. So in fact, once you see agave syrups, which is say organic agave syrup, yes, maybe it's been grown organically, but in order to make those sugar drinkable without shitting yourself, yeah, they must have done something, to make it happen. Yeah. So it depends which, even with the grape, even with the wine, when the juice is about to get pressed in the next few hours, if you're drinking a lot, might be a kind of a laxative. It's because of this kind of a fructant of these sugars, you know. So to your question, is it safe? This technique is literally following the same method of a brewing of beer or a wine. It's very important to know which sugar are present in the element. Honey is an antiseptic element. It's a very healthy element for our diet, and definitely with the fermentation, it won't occur any miscomfort or discomfort. Cool. I answered your question. Please.
I was wondering if there's any tests you can make to know like if anything is safe. Like, for example, like when you consume the essential oil in the syrup.
Yeah.
When you do this experience, is there anything like it could be like almost easy or it's always complicated?
Well, the best way then would be to send a sample to a laboratory that does analysis. That would be to be honest with you, maybe you can have an analysis for a few $100 or maybe more, but definitely you delegate this professional, because to do yourself, well, you want to buy maybe a digital spectrometer of $20,000 or more. It depends. But yes, you can, of course. There are also some pharmacists, some apothecary, some of those that can do analysis, or they can send your product to analysis. Depends how much they ask. Yeah. But yes, of course you can. Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions? Did you like the fermentation? Yeah. If you see how many different flavors, how many different flavors you can get, how many fields you can get from one element. Depends how you want to elaborate it. And you know why it fascinates me, these things? Because despite the fact that we are very busy to rush, to run, pay this, pay that, fermentation is beautiful because you do it. You do it, and then you just have to wait. You just have to wait, and that's its beauty. You just need to take the time for it to create the flavor. It's very relaxing in terms of the mind, no? To know that you can still have to rely on something that you just to let it go and wait. And in fact, we are developing an idea to make a cocktail using one ingredient. Then you can distill it, of course, different elaboration, but one ingredient plus water. One ingredient plus water. It will be fun. It will be really fun. And not necessarily will taste as a mono flavor, because it depends the way how you elaborate it, you can get different sources. Cool. One more question. We got 2 minutes before we finish. Since yesterday I passed over 20 minutes, today I would like to. So to recap, smoke less cigarettes. Watch less YouPorn after work or Instagram, and maybe dedicate half an hour a day to do this little reflection, do this little experiment. Fermentation is fun. $20. Hydrometer as well to measure your fermentation. $15, something like that. Scales, $7 or maybe 10 if you are unlucky. Yeah, that's it. What else? Marilyn, Yeah. Question.
Your experiment with the fermentation, will you go as far as to serve them at a bar, or is it really just for
As long as it tastes good, yes.
Well, I mean, no, legally.
Hi guys, legally. If you need, yeah. Most of the things we do behind the bar is, by the time you alterate something already commercial, is not legal. Of course, it's not legal, but again, everything is needs to be also planned with a common sense. No, if I would do it in a bar, I wouldn't write on the door, "Here we serve naturally fermented things." We just use it. We say to the guests, say fermentation. We can say. Depends which language you use. Legally, yes, it's not legal. What can I do? Do we go to jail for it? No, we just make people happy in the bar. And that's why bar exists. Period. No?
To what extent the machines you have to check pH, check sugar content, to what extent are they useful in actually telling your balance of your cocktail? You said that they, flavor is subjective, it will change from person to person. But to what extent could you, for example, check the pH balance of your whiskey sour and say this is good, this is balanced, or this is acidic?
I would prefer to drink the whiskey sour because I also like to drink. But the fact that we use this is just to give us a standard to be kept perhaps written or decoded, and then we know that maybe with whiskey or with tequila, for example, there is the general pH that people prefer is 3.1 instead of 4, for example. No? And these are said, nothing is essential. You know, you can still run your business without this, and you're not gonna close your bar if you don't have a pH meter, and you're not gonna make $1 more million in the bar if you do have pH meter of $20. But it's a matter of how curious you are and how you want to be in control with what's happening inside of a shaker or inside of a drink. Very simple. Because we are lucky enough to receive lots of information with brands, masterclass, but then at the question, how much sugar is inside of a soft drink, not everybody is able to answer, and that's what it doesn't upset me, it fascinates me. Why? You know? And it's all about that. It's about to just, you interpret your professional journey, whatever you call it, the way you want it, as long as it satisfies you. So as long as you go home at night, you are tired and say, well, today we did something, we believe that we did something cool or something important or less important. So at 4 o'clock, there will be another activity, correct?
Sure.
You want to say something about this?
Oh, you want to do?
No, I forgot, so.
Take my job.
No.
So you're finished?
Yes.
Okay, so first we can... Merci Simone.